Welcome to my new gallery. I love saying that. I'm Tim Packer.
And I'm Brooke Cormier.
And we're shooting another episode of our mentorship series here today at my gallery. We thought this would be a great place to do it. The gallery actually opens tomorrow, and it's at 9 William Street West in Oshawa. And yeah, this is the first kind of public look at the gallery.
Great space.
And yeah, if you aren't, now some of you may not be aware of this whole mentorship series. Brooke and I have known each other for a few years now, I guess. Well, I was actually friends with her parents, first of all. But they came to me about not quite 2 years ago, I guess, and said that your dad was not happy with me. Brooke graduated as a landscape architect from university, and then told her parents that what she really wanted to do was pursue a career in art.
Yes.
And they blamed me.
For encouraging that.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
And asked me what I thought, and I actually was very encouraging. I thought you probably had what it takes to succeed, meaning, first of all, your skill level where you were, but your work ethic, your business sense, everything about what I know what it takes to be a successful artist, I thought you had. So I told them I thought that they should support you, and we agreed that I would mentor you through this whole process, and we would record every single one of our sessions and put them up on my YouTube channel, which we have done. I think this is episode 14 or 15 or something,
around there.
Something like that. Yeah. And so if you don't know the whole story, you can go back and watch it, but I'll just cut to the chase and say she has had an amazingly successful...
I'm glad that you encouraged me to do this.
Just unbelievable first year and a half, and basically achieved in the first year and a half what took me 5 or 6 years to do. And now in some ways the student has become the teacher, especially though when it comes to Instagram, social media, the way that you create your posts. I just couldn't be more proud, but yeah, you are killing it. So this is part of it. So we're gonna pick up here. Brooke has had a number of things that happened since we did our last session.
Yes.
And so you've launched your Shopify store.
My online store.
You hit 100,000.
Yes, 100,000 followers on Instagram.
And you're I think I'm ahead of you on Facebook still by like 100, or maybe you have more likes and I have more follows, but we're both around 20,000 on Facebook.
Yeah. I think Facebook is a harder platform to get more of a following.
To get that real quick thing. But you've caught me. I was already, I think, at 10,000 when you started. Yeah. So, and you did your first AMA on Reddit.
Yes, my very first Reddit.
Which we'll get to, which is a great story.
Full story.
Yeah. So let's talk about how you went, because the last time we talked, I think you were around 70,000 on Instagram.
Yeah.
And so what happened there to blow you up another 30,000 in the space of a month?
So basically, I was at around 70 or 80,000, like really just a few weeks ago, and I was like, yay, I hit 80,000, this is awesome, and I was planning on doing something big for, my 100,000, like once I got there, but I thought that was gonna be like farther down the line. And then, like the following week after hitting 80,000, there was just, I guess, a couple of like major art featuring Instagram accounts that featured a bunch of my pictures, and that just generated like so much traffic over to my page, and then like literally it seems like overnight.
And when you see that, like, you must just see like the follow in your feed.
And the thing is that one of the art accounts that featured me had like 7 million followers or something, and they didn't tag me like in the actual photo at first, just in like the caption. And so usually like my comments will get kind of lost in my like my feed, so I don't really get to see that, and so I can only see the photos that people actually tag me in, because I can go into my own tagged photos. And so I had no idea.
Oh, you didn't know where it was coming from?
I had no idea what was going on. I just like went on my phone and I'm like, what the hell? Like, why am I getting all this? And then like later on I realized.
But did somebody, I've had that happen to me, and someone will kind of say, oh, congrats on getting featured on this site. And you're
and
like,
that's what
okay.
happened, is actually somebody tagged me on the photo on my personal Instagram account saying, wow, this is so awesome. And I was like, oh, that's the reason why. So yeah, and then that just kind of like catapulted me into 100,000, and I literally, like, I was not prepared for it. I hit 1,000 or 100,000 when I was over at my sister's house in Toronto, and then I'm like, oh my god, I need to like do something big. So we literally went to Dollarama and just like bought a bunch of construction
That was
paper.
so cool what you did though. I have to do more of that
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
and then overnight we just cutting out like pieces of paper to like make this like 100,000 sign, and then and then that just coincidentally coincided with the launch of my online Shopify store, so that was really cool. And it's been something that I've been working on for a long time, is getting this up and running, and so it was really awesome that kind of like lined up around the same
And so
time.
so you just launched your store.
It was last Wednesday that it
So
went.
not quite a week.
Yes.
And tell us what you've sold on your store already.
Yeah, so it's just crazy. I was not expecting, but like so far it's been like just over like 4,000 in sales, which has been like, woo!
That used to be a great weekend festival.
Yeah.
You know, like going, but that's where you're paying your money. You're setting up your tent, you're standing there for 2 days,
so much
you have a whole
effort.
pile of work. And that's
now it's just like getting an email.
I love those emails where it's like, oh!
Like, I literally got this email yesterday about this huge order, and I just like slammed open my door and I was like, yay! My dad's like, what's going on up there?
That's what I found. It makes checking email almost like doing scratch and wins. Right?
Yeah,
You just
exactly.
and I see a message from the Tim Packer Fine Art store. It's
and
like,
you're like,
ooh.
what's this? Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's like we're shipping one to Boston.
Yeah.
So, and you
Yeah.
also actually, we haven't spoke since you went to Austria.
Yeah.
So you were over there for a couple weeks?
Yes, I was there for 3.5 weeks, and so I really wanted to make sure that I was going to be able to do some work while I was over there, since it was a long holiday. So I ended up bringing just a bunch of small canvases over, stuff that I could just keep in my suitcase on the way back. And I finished a little commission while I was there, and then I actually went skiing like in the Alps while I was there, and so I took a bunch of pictures of like all the mountains and everything, and then I did like a little series of like 4x4 paintings of the Austrian Alps.
Yeah.
And then and so I took those all back with me, and then once I came back home, I mounted them all, and that was a huge project. I was not anticipating. I was like, woodworking and all this stuff, but so I mounted them, and that actually just sold yesterday, so I was really happy about that.
I guess I should mention too, if you have any questions, how many people do we have on there, Scotty? We have 15 people on here now. Okay, so if you have any questions for either Brooke or myself, you can go ahead and type them in, and we'll do a little Q&A thing at the end. What was I going to say? Oh, because I was really impressed, because I thought, okay, you're going to be away for 3 weeks, but it's like, that's the one thing about social media is it has an appetite that just you have to keep feeding. So you did a really good job of continuing to post while you were there and find something that's kind of creative and doing all those little ones.
And what was funny is it was crazy actually. One day I just did like a quick little Instagram story when I was on the way to the art store, just being like,
I saw that.
Whatever. And then I got a direct message on Instagram from somebody who's saying like, hey, is this was this video taken at like Almenplatz, which is where I was, because I work right around the corner, and I saw you. I saw you taking this video, and I thought that it was you, and I was gonna say hi, but. Yeah, and I was like, that's so crazy that like somebody in Vienna who like follows me like saw me there. It was just like, it's nuts. But I was able to kind of like keep that up while I was there, and it was nice.
Okay, so now let's get to the AMA on
Yes,
so
the
you can,
AMA.
I heard the story today, but you can start from the beginning here.
So it was an emotional roller coaster because so what happened is I scheduled the AMA for March 30th, the Friday, and I had submitted a calendar request. I'm also, like, it's important to know that I'm very new at Reddit. I literally created my account last week just to do this, and I wanted to do the AMA just so that I could have the opportunity to answer all these questions that people had for me that I'm not able to spend like hours in a day to respond to all the emails and direct messages and whatnot. So anyways, I submitted a calendar request to the AMA moderators, but they said that this wasn't the type of AMA that they would need to schedule, so I didn't get on the calendar thing. So basically the only way that the AMA was advertised was through my Instagram account and through my Facebook. So on the Monday I posted, oh, I'm doing an AMA on Friday, like sign in, whatever. And then the day of the AMA came, and I went live at noon, and I already had like a bunch of questions ready for me, and they were all great questions. I was having a ton of like great conversations with people, all relevant and everything, and I spent like the entire day answering everybody's questions, and it went really well. And then at the end of the night I just, you know, wrote my little sign-off message like, thanks everybody for like a great day, and like,
the world's such a wonderful place.
It's like, people are great, this is awesome, you know. And then I went to bed, and then I woke up in the morning, and I got a few messages actually on Instagram saying like, hey, what happened to your AMA? Like, how come you got so many downvotes? And I was like, what? And so then I went back to the thread that I did it on, and it was just like all
troll after troll.
Yeah, it was like I just got hijacked, I guess that's the Reddit term, by like a bunch of, like a troll mob, I don't know, I'm learning all the terms now. But yeah, basically all these people, they found the AMA, and they assumed that because all of these new accounts were asking me questions, that I had been creating all of these fake accounts to ask myself questions and then answering them. But in reality, it was just because all of the people who wanted to ask me questions were not Reddit users, and they were just specifically creating a Reddit account from seeing my posts on Instagram and Facebook so that they could ask me these questions. So like, yeah, a bunch of the accounts were like, you know, a day old or like whatever. Yeah. So people just assumed that I was making
So first of all, that, we were talking about this earlier, I cannot believe people have that much time in their day that they see this and it's like, oh wow, this looks like a really great conversation, and their immediate reaction is,
can't be true.
This must be bull.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they go in and they see, well, there's a lot of new accounts here, and it's like, oh, she's created all of these new accounts to ask herself questions. And so tell us about the one from like the pièce de la résistance was the comment about, you got a comment from someone in the Philippines.
Yeah, or Singapore.
In Singapore.
Yeah, and this was actually, so the morning I woke up and I discovered this AMA, and I was like so upset. I was devastated on how it just went from being an amazing thing to like the most terrible thing ever. So I immediately like deleted it because I was just like embarrassed and like upset about it and everything. But then somebody posted another thing on Disaster AMA, which is this special place on the internet where special people go and like make these conspiracy theories about AMAs that have gone wrong in the past. And so somebody created this AMA saying, oh, artists, you know, creates all these fake accounts to ask yourself questions because nobody else will. And so that was actually, like, at first I was upset, but then it kind of turned into entertainment because these, like, the comments, like, somebody actually had made an account from Singapore and was asking me questions and whatever, and saying, oh, sorry for my English and all that. And then in this disastrous thread, someone's like, you know, it was really offensive how she even used broken English for her fake Singapore account. And I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe that people like actually think that I would go through the effort of doing something like that. So anyways, it turned out to be a disaster, but yes, there was definitely a silver lining to the story because yesterday, I logged onto my email and got this email for this huge order. Somebody bought like 2 of my paintings and a print, and I was just ecstatic about it. So I emailed the woman thanking her, and she actually told me that she found me from the Reddit thing, like for the whole, and I think that it must have been from the disasters AMA thing, because she said that that's where like she discovered my work, and then she decided to go and check me out, and then
who is this fraud artist?
Yeah, exactly. And I was just like, oh my god, like so great. Like it wasn't all for nothing. And yes, thank you to everybody who actually did make accounts specifically to ask me questions because that was, you know, I appreciate you going through the effort of doing that, and I was happy to engage with you, and it wasn't me.
That's the thing. You've got 100. When you've gone from basically, what did you have when you started? 100 or 200 Instagram followers, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, you've gone from there to 100,000 basically in just over a year.
Yeah.
I think it's not surprising that you get people that want to ask you questions. Like, how many questions do you get on an average post? How many comments?
Yeah, like
hundreds, right? Yeah. So it's like, she's. For those, and I just hope some of these people who trolled you actually kind of are following to see what else you're doing outside that. So,
there was a lot of people on the thread that had my back and that were saying like, no, I mean, like, do the math.
Check out her Instagram and her Facebook account. But that's, I mean, and we talked about that too. That's the one thing about doing social media is, you know, sometimes these, even just a slightly kind of diggy comment, you know, it's like you can get 1,000 great ones and you get one dig, and 3 days later you're still thinking about it and coming up with the perfect response to it. And you just have to learn to just realize that, like, even Adele, right, who's like one of the greatest singers in the world, there are people who hate Adele, right? There are just some people out there that are just losers, seriously. And they just cannot stand to see anyone else achieving a real monumental success. And two things: either they think there's got to be some scam behind this that you're pulling, or else...
That was actually another thing on Reddit. People were saying, well, she has 100,000 followers. She bought all of those.
Well, first of all, how can you buy 100,000 Instagram followers?
I know.
And I guess you can, but then you don't get 300 comments every post and 10,000, 20,000 likes if they're fake accounts. But anyways, that whole thing that is the only thing about social media, you're putting it out there, and there are people out there who have just nothing better to do with their time, and they want to make themselves feel better by tearing down someone that looks like things are going better than for them. So at the end of the day, you just think, you know what, I feel sorry for those people. That they have nothing better to do with their time. That's their life. That made them feel really good. Especially the person that went to the trouble to create this post about you as this. So. And as Damon John said from the Shark Tank, he said, if you're not getting trolled, then you haven't made it yet. If nobody's trolling you, So let's talk about now. So you have a show coming up in August.
In August, yes.
And which one's that?
So that's the Oakville Art in the Park.
Yeah.
And yes, that's the only one that I have scheduled right now because my inventory is running quite low. And so
there's now for those of you artists out there who are tempted to be looking with the green-eyed monster, it's like that's been your problem now for a year, right? Your work is selling as fast as you can produce it. And for those of you out there who are seeing this and experiencing a bit of envy, all I can say is and we've talked about this before, when I was coming up and I saw people that were killing it, I loved it because I want to know that it's possible that somebody can do this. And
it's possible.
And and just think all you have to, and again, you can actually follow, for those that are watching that are artists who are trying to do this. I think all the advice that I've given you in the last year and a half, but not only that, what you've done with it and how that experience has kind of grown to this is all documented on the YouTube channel.
Yes.
And so for those of you who want to know, because that's the most important thing, how you get from Mom, Dad, I don't want to be an architect, I want to be an artist, to, less than 2 years later, launching your site and doing 4,000 in sales in less than a week. All of that whole story is documented on the YouTube channel. And then one other thing I will just say, for those of you who want to know how Brooke has, because I was way ahead of you when we started. And you've left me in your dust at Instagram, but you have an amazing way, and I say this all the time, but there's going to be some new people here watching. If you want to see how an artist can post creatively and really make the picture posts engaging, then you need to check out Brooke's Instagram account. And that's B_Cormier art.
B_Cormier_art. Yeah.
I do pretty good posts, but for me it's just totally relying on the art, and I'm not that. But even some days when you don't have a painting day, it's like you'll go in and make something creative, even if it's just like with coffee and donuts or something in your studio. But like that's one thing I'm actually really taking to heart, and the boys as well. We're taking our photos. It's like we got to be more like Brooke. Like we got to think more creatively and really engage people.
Yeah. Well, photography is like one of my favorite hobbies too.
Yeah,
so
you
I
can
like
tell.
to combine those.
And you do it all yourself, right? So you just set it up on timer?
Yeah,
That's amazing.
I'm a self-timing pro at this.
Because that's hard.
Yeah.
I find
Okay.
I find it hard to pose for the camera, even when someone's looking at taking 30 shots.
Yeah.
But when you've just got it set up and you're...
Yeah, I know.
So anyways, so this is all what's going on with you in the business. Let's talk about the art now, because this is the year that you said you're going to really kind of just dig deep and try and find what it is you're going to kind of gravitate to in terms of subject matter and style and all that. And have you had the chance to do much of that yet? Or I know you've been being away in Austria.
Yeah, I know, that's the thing. I find that I have done a little bit, not as much as I'd like, and there's definitely going to be a lot more of that in the future. But so far this year I've created a few pieces, like the Muskoka one that I just finished, that I used a bit of your techniques to do. So that was fun, because that was definitely something new. And that was also a challenging piece too, because it was one that was sitting in my basement for half a year.
And you did the small sketch of that when we were away on a paint weekend. And actually that turned out great. And
that's why I wanted to take that and make it like a bigger version and do a little something different with it. So, but anyways, so I used some of your techniques, and I found that was really fun. And I like recently, I'm also working on a painting right now that is a little bit different, just because it's like a still life that and I've never done a still life quite like this before.
Well, you did the triple bogey was kind of...
Yes, this triple bogey, you're right. Yeah. But this one was one that I actually, like, so it's, this big thing of bourbon and like these books, and then a cigar and like the glass of bourbon,
but with the light kind of shining through it
and like all this stuff. So I wanted to get the lighting just right, so I was like studying the light in my kitchen for like days leading up to when I knew I was going to do the photo shoot, to see like what time of day I was going to do it. And it ended up being at like 7 in the morning. And I like went down and I'm like, Dad, do you have any cigars? And he's like
I
at work.
Your dad when I saw that. Yeah.
He's at work. He's like, yeah, I have some. I'm like, can I borrow one? He's like, okay. So I had to like Google or YouTube how to cut a cigar, because I've never done that before. So it's like 7 in the morning and I'm outside puffing on this cigar. I'm like, I hope my neighbors don't see me. They're gonna think I'm crazy. But so I set up the whole still life, and I had it all, and I took probably 500 pictures, all different angles, all different lighting. So I spent probably a 2-hour time window as the light is changing and taking all these. So this is a different piece, because I've never done something like that before. Usually I'll go back into my photos from this trip or that trip and see something. But
now, was this just something you wanted to do, or did okay?
And this is actually something that this piece I'm going to be submitting into the Oshawa Art Association juried show. And the thing for this show is that the submission deadline was I think a week and a half ago, and I had a few pieces, but not ones that I really wanted to enter into the show, other than the Muskoka one. And so on my submission form, I wrote that I was going to be entering 2, but I actually hadn't made the other one yet.
Because you didn't need a photo for this.
You didn't need a photo. All you had to do is put what category it falls under and what the name of the thing is. So I named it 5 o'clock. So that leaves it really open. I can do whatever I want, and and I knew I wanted to do a still life. So then basically since then I've been working on this painting to enter it, and the deadline is April 12th. So
you got lots of time.
I got some
Is this
time.
oils too?
This is acrylic.
Okay, so then you don't have to worry about drying time.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if it was oils, it's
that was premeditated. I know. I was I need to make sure that this is going to be dry in time for submission. So that's something new, and I've been really enjoying it so far, because I wanted to experiment more with glass.
I think that the way that you can handle light, and the way that you did the triple bogey painting of the light coming through the beer, I think still life is something that where you can play around with the lighting and the photography, and because when that's done well, it just reaches out and grabs people, right? Just any sort of light effect, right? That's my kind of thing. I built my career on that.
It's very evident in all of yours.
But that type, and you see, because glass, and that's also a way to really wow people with your skill set. Yeah. Because it's if you do a beautiful piece, it's just a beautiful piece. But anybody who knows anything about art knows that, man, that's tough. That's tough to do. So I saw the you posted the color rough on Instagram. How far along are you on the actual piece?
So, my plan is to have it finished by Friday.
Oh, okay, good.
And that is if I'm I'm gonna go home today and work on it, and then I'll have Wednesday, Thursday, and hopefully have it done by Friday. So I've got, it's like the books and then the bourbon glass with the cigar and everything. So far I have the books done, and I actually just posted a little time-lapse video.
I saw that,
yeah. There's like little pearl earrings, and that's something that I've been wanting to do more of, is the time-lapses. Yeah. But I figure that this piece in particular would be a great opportunity to do just a bunch of little ones instead of like one big one. Because that was something that was a complete nightmare with this beach painting that I completed earlier this year. Because I don't know, I didn't know how long it was going to take me, and I set the intervals to like every 12 or 15 seconds, and it ended up being like thousands of pictures. Yeah. And then like when I was going to actually make the time-lapse video, all of the numbers got jumbled, and it was just like spazzing out, and I was just basically like crying in my bedroom. Why?
You need to get a new camera now that has the actual time-lapse video function in it.
That's what I need. But so then I think that this is a good opportunity to do more of those videos, because it's like separate pieces of the painting. Like, here's me painting the pearl earrings.
Especially on Instagram where it's a minute. That's perfect, because if you compress a whole painting into a minute, it just kind of it's too fast.
Exactly. Yeah. And I actually asked my followers today if they wanted to see more time-lapse videos, to comment heck yes on the picture, and there's a lot of heck yeses, so I think that's something that's going to be in the future for me.
Okay, do we have some questions, Scotty?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to some questions here.
Okay, so Tracy Morrison asks, how do you decide the price for your work?
That's an excellent question. So that's Tracy Morrison wants to know, how do we decide the price for our work? Oh, this is great, because I've been getting a ton of questions on, there's a group that Brooke and I belong to, are just trying to make a living through creating their art or selling their art or something like that. And so this is gonna take a while, and I'll give my spiel, and then you can say how that's actually worked for you too. But when you're selling your work, there's a few things you have to consider when you're talking about pricing. So first of all, you have to realize that the art world is like, if you think about the art world, it's this huge thing, and then there's little villages within the art world. And the village that is like public galleries and museums and things like the Tate, and where you see installations and the meat dress and the Piss Christ and all this stuff, that's a whole different village. The village that I'm in and that you're in is the village where it's an artist creating work, trying to create great work that reaches out and engages people, that people love and want to take home, and they get out their wallets to pay you money to take your work home. So that's the village of a working artist selling their work to the public. So that's the very first thing. So everything I'm going to talk about relates to that village. And once you're within there, there's two aspects that any piece of art has. It has value and it has a price. Now the artist can set the price, but the public gets to determine the value. And they determine the value by how much, and here, this is a biblical word, but I love it because it really explains how you feel about a piece of art. It depends how much they covet that piece of art. Because when you see a piece you love, right, it's that, oh, I want to have that, I want to take it home. And it's like, well, how much are you willing to spend to do that? And if the value that the public puts on it is here, and you've got your price above it, you could potentially sell nothing. If the value is here and you put your price just below it, you will sell a ton. Mm-hmm. And that's the advice that I gave you right from the start was, start out low as you can as low as you can get away with, where when a piece sells, you're not going to go home and cry, right? And then as your work sells, hopefully you've underpriced it. And actually, so the way you go about finding out how do you start is, what I would recommend is go out and look at a bunch of art festivals, art shows, and try and find someone who's about the same place you're at. So that's in terms of the quality of the work, you think it would appeal to the same sort of client, and where they are in their career. So you can't say, well, I think my work is as good as this artist, but if they've got a 20-year career, it's apples and oranges. Find someone who you think is pretty equal to where you are, and then see what they're charging, and then beat that by 20% to start. And then if your work sells really quickly, then you raise your prices. And Robert Jen had a great philosophy on that, is raise your prices in small increments, but often. And so it's like my work has gone up. A piece that used to cost $500 is now $2,500, but it's gone up in $50 increments over time. And at sometimes it's almost doubled within a year, because the demand is just so much. And you've found that.
Yes.
You're actually charging more than double probably what you did at the start.
Yeah.
But having that work priced really low at the beginning, it does two things. It first of all, it makes you feel good because you're selling your work. And it generates a buzz, because those people, they go, you should see this artist, and she's such a great value. And because you've had a lot of that, right? People referring people. And the other reason why you want to get rid of that work as soon as possible is, when you're early in your career, your work is going to be changing an awful lot, and hopefully you're going to be improving. You don't want those pieces from a year ago still kicking around, because you won't be able to sell them, or you certainly won't be able to sell them at your new prices.
Yeah.
And especially if you're trying all kinds of different things. So that's kind of my thoughts on pricing your work. And so just give us your, how you found that has worked for you.
Yes, definitely very accurate. Because I remember, like, for my very first art show, it was Stouffville Art in the Park, and that was last
You
summer.
get some water, Sky?
And it was, and so for that show, that was the first show that I had created these little, like, 3x3
The mushroom
paintings. Or no, those were the 5x7 ones,
yeah.
but these, like, the little food paintings. So I had a bunch of the little 3x3 food paintings, and I, like, wasn't really sure. I started off pricing them at $20 each, and then they sold out so quickly. And then I was like, okay, $25, still sold out like that. And then, like, okay, bump. Now, like, a 3x3 would go for like $45.
So it's almost double.
Oh, almost double, yeah. And like that.
Well, it has doubled. Actually, 20 to more,
$20 to $45. And like, I haven't even made any more 3x3s. Well, actually, yeah, the last commission that I did was like a series of 9 3x3s, and that was 9 3x3s. But I also mounted them all myself and like made the board and everything. But I sold that for $750. So it went from selling each little one for like $20 each to being able to sell 9 for $750. So yeah, and that was definitely like going out to your first art show and not selling anything would be really heartbreaking, and also, you know, take a big hit to your motivation, self-esteem.
To your parents who are watching thinking, we paid for a 4-year architecture degree.
Exactly. But like, if you have your price right at the right place and you know that, and then you sell all your work, even if you think that maybe you could have gotten more for it.
Well, you know you could have gotten more.
Yeah, I know that.
But you don't know how much.
Exactly. So it's just about kind of like bumping up the price a little bit over time, and
you can even do it at a show. I've done that before, where literally, like, one day you'll just go nuts, and the next day you go around and mark everything up. It's just, there's nothing to stop you. But you never want to go back.
Yeah.
And the other thing you don't get, if your work is overpriced and you don't sell anything, especially, so you were at the stage for some of the shows, you had some of the food paintings, you had some landscapes, you had some figurative stuff, you had some experimental things. If you don't sell anything, you get no feedback from the public in terms of, like, what is it that's really striking a chord with the public. Whereas when the work is selling, like those food ones, when you first started showing them, it's like, wow, so you know, okay, that's really hitting. And then the landscapes, you're actually at the point now you get to choose, right? Because everything that you've done really has done very well. But if your prices are too high and you're selling nothing, and there's only two, people ask me a lot all the time, it's like, what can I do? So the first thing is you have to get your work out there to be seen, to know whether or not it will sell. But a lot of people ask me, how can I sell more of my work? My first question is, well, are you getting your work out there where it's being seen by people? It's like, yes. And you're not selling? No. You only have two options. Lower your prices or paint better paintings. That's it.
Yeah,
there's no marketing you can do. Yeah. And so lowering your prices doesn't seem like a really good strategic career move, but you can improve your paintings by really focusing on improving your skill set. And the biggest thing that I would say to people, drawing and composition are the two biggest that people probably could use improvement in, but it's important to spend dedicated time to improve those skills if that's where you're weak, rather than putting out mediocre stuff and thinking it's a marketing thing. It really is about the artwork first, and then it becomes a marketing thing. But you can still sell your work as you're learning. The key is to have it priced appropriately.
Yes.
Do I have another question?
Yeah, so Farah asks, how do you grow a following on Facebook and Instagram?
Good. Well, okay, so I'll give you the first thing I would say for anybody. So I have now, I have like 20,000 Facebook followers. I'm at 7,000 on Instagram. I've got about 7,000 on LinkedIn, and I think I'm at like 2,500 on YouTube, which I thought was killing it. And then little Miss Brooke here kind of showed me how to really kill it. But I do have to say though, for an old guy, I'm doing pretty good, right? You're native to this stuff.
Yes.
So
I grew up with this.
Yeah, 2 years ago, I did not even know how to use a smartphone. I had one, but I only ever took it with me because I thought if I needed an emergency, like I only ever had it when I went on painting trips when I was alone by myself. My phone spent 98% of its time. Yeah, it spent all its time uncharged, sitting on the counter. And I discovered a guy by the name of Gary Vaynerchuk. So that's what I would say to Farah first of all. It's Gary, Vaynerchuk, or Gary V-E-E. Just Google him. He has hundreds and hundreds of hours of stuff on YouTube about social media, and he is the best in my opinion.
He's crushing it.
He's crushing it. He's written 5 New York Times bestsellers. He uses salty language and he drops the F-bombs, but he runs a $100 million ad agency, and he is going to be, I think, he's going to be a celebrity far, I think, bigger than like all of the Dragon's Dens and Mark Cuban and all that kind of stuff. Like he is just so far on the rise. I basically learned how to do this from him. And so the keys to social media are, it's all about giving value. It's giving value without expectation of anything in return. And there's 3 ways that you can give value on social media. You can create work that entertains, you can create work that educates, or you can create posts that inspire. Those are the 3 pillars. And ideally, you want to get posts that have elements of both or all of those. And that's basically it. So if you're a creative person, we have it easy as visual artists, and I got this from Gary Vaynerchuk too. It's like, so you want to create you need to post regularly, so it's like almost every day. But as a creative person, if you're working in your studio, the fallback every day is just document what you've done. So whether it's taking a picture, this is what I've done so far today. We talked about time lapses. Time lapses are a great way to create really engaging. All you do is set your camera up, you set it on time lapse, and you just have it go away. And when you're finished, you put up the video. You can put commentary on it, put music on it. But it's creating posts that entertain, inspire, or educate. And so then you have to be creative about that. And so I'm pretty good. My people find my work very engaging, but I have gotten really lazy and been in a habit of just taking pictures of me with a painting or what I'm working on. Check out Brooke's Instagram in particular to see how you can be really, really creative. And again, it's that whole idea of giving without expectation of anything in return, just knowing that karma is practical. Yes. With the Reddit AMA, a perfect example.
Very perfect example.
Spend a whole day just answering questions just because it's like, it's again, giving value, and you feel bad because you don't have the time to answer all of these questions. on your Instagram, but it's the same question over and over after, right? So we'll do it all in one go, and then of course you get trolled and it gets turned upside down on its head. But now it's a great story, and it got you a lady who made a $4,000 purchase.
Yes.
But that's how you create a following. And the other thing is, as long as you possibly can, once you get to a certain level, you can't do it. I'm not there yet. But it's a matter, this is a social media, and engagement is really important back and forth.
Yes.
So it's answering those comments. I mean, the etiquette on social media is exactly the same as in person. If someone comes up and says, I like your work, you say,
Thank you.
exactly. So you respond to all of the comments. If someone asks you a question, you answer them. Or if you can't answer them, you can say, well, I'm going to be answering that in a video post next week or something. But I still answer every single comment and every single question that I get. And that's just the cost of entry if you want to get good at this.
Yeah.
And I would not be opening this gallery without social media. I've done 3 pop-up gallery shows last year as kind of testing the waters here, and we did really, really amazingly well. And literally everybody that walked in the door is because they follow me on social media, and I was able to put out there, hey, I'm at my gallery, I'm having a show, and then people come in to see you. So social media is the game changer. You are a perfect example. I just, for young people right now, anybody, but in particular young people who grew up native to this, but even old fogies like me can do it. I've gone from 0 to this in 2 years. I thought it was just giggling babies, cat videos, and had no thought that this could be a part of my business. The gatekeepers are gone. I was in 12 galleries like a year and a half ago. Now I'm down to just 3 where I'm really close with the owners. But in any given day, I'll have more people see my work than saw my work in a gallery in the entire year.
Exactly.
And Brooke's done all this without any sort of galleries, and you've got galleries wanting you.
Yeah.
It's like, why would you? Like, there's a gallery I was in Toronto, really high-end gallery. They've got 1,000 Instagram followers.
Yeah.
Why would you want to give them 50% of your sales to hang your work in their gallery when they are only going to expose it to maybe 500 people on Instagram? And even in the biggest, best galleries, they might get 30 or 40 people walk in the door.
Yeah.
You're selling your stuff. You're selling pieces even before they're finished,
Yep.
too, right? People are saying, I'll take it.
Yeah.
So social media is the game changer. The same thing, I think of Blockbuster Video and Netflix. And Blockbuster was just the king of videos. And when Netflix came along, they actually had the opportunity to buy Netflix.
They did.
And they laughed at it.
Oh no.
And it was like a year later, Blockbuster Video boarded up because the gatekeepers are gone. Everything is going direct from the producer to the client. The only reason you would ever want to be in a gallery is if they had 1 million followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
And could sell more, and you could produce work faster than you could sell it. But so anyways, tell me.
Well, from my experience, like when I first started out on Instagram, and I obviously started out with 0 followers, and then it was all the people who were my friends and family who were supporting me. And then, I started out with just posting photos of the finished products of my painting, just that. And people were like, oh yeah, good. But then I started posting more content of, like I said, like, this is a snack I'm having in the studio today.
Yeah.
And, oh, I spilt like my paint all over the place. Like,
There's a post.
And I started kind of like adding a little bit more personality to my social media. And that was a big game changer. I started using a lot more hashtags, and I didn't think that was gonna make too much of a difference, but it does, especially once your following starts getting bigger and bigger. Because when you use a hashtag, for example, I always use like Canadian artist. When you get a lot of likes on a photo, then your post makes it to the top of the Canadian artist hashtag. And then people who don't even know who you are, who check out that hashtag, will see you immediately in the Canadian artist hashtag place on the internet.
On the World Wide Web.
Yeah, exactly. Using hashtags actually is very beneficial. And when I also first started, with all my social media, well, on Instagram in particular, there's a ton of art featuring accounts, and a lot of them will offer to advertise your work for a small fee. And like some people may think that, oh, that's selling out, like you should.
So you've done that?
But I have done that.
Okay, well you have to tell me which ones, and I'm going to do that.
Well, I mean, like, so this was like early on before this whole Reddit thing happened. I only had like, I think, I don't know, 500 followers or something. But these huge art accounts have like 300,000 followers or 1 million followers and like that kind of thing. So it's paying for advertising. So basically you just send them like a PayPal transfer for like 15, 20 bucks, and then you send them like the picture that you want them to post, and then they'll post the picture. You can even sometimes create your own caption. Sometimes they'll create it for you, and then they tag you, and then it's, you know, out there for their whole 200, 300,000 followers to see. And so I did that, I think, 2 or 3 times.
Now, do you remember which ones? Did you do Art Fido?
No, I didn't do Art Fido. And it was actually, like, I know one in particular reached out to me. They found me and they said, oh, we'll give you a deal because we own both of these accounts. So we'll give you a deal for this amount of money. We'll post 2 posts on both of the accounts. And I was like, you know, and I think you can also kind of bargain with them a little bit.
So that whole thing too is that's actually, it might not look like it, but it's using Instagram influencers.
Yeah,
right?
It is. So
it's like basically the idea is you're going to pay somebody who has a huge following to get your work in front of their audience. Now the caveat there is the post has to be amazing.
Yeah.
If it's a mediocre picture of a mediocre painting, that's not going to help you. But if you're getting good organic reaction to your work, then the whole game is to get it in front of as many people as possible, because ideally if they will also like it and will follow you. And so so I have to talk to you about that, because I've got approached by a couple, and my thing so far has been but
some of them are worth it.
Well, then the other thing is too, it depends how many followers they have.
Exactly, and it depends because, like, one, for example, I don't even remember who, and this was also when I was very first starting, and I didn't even really know what I was doing. But I paid like, I don't know, $10, and then I think maybe I got like 50 followers. So I was like, is that really worth it? Like, maybe not. But then I paid, I think, I don't know, like maybe double that for this other big one. And then I got like, I don't know, like 300 or 400 followers. And that to me was like worth it at the time because my following was so small.
Yeah, and it's not like you're not buying followers. What you're doing is you're buying them putting your work in front of their followers. And you'll just get people who love your work.
Well, exactly. And I think that that's also, people get confused about that because you're not buying the followers.
No.
You're paying to advertise your work through other accounts. So there's nothing wrong with that. Like you shouldn't be like ashamed of like paying another account.
And we've also both benefited from like some of these big accounts too. They're always looking for content. So sometimes they'll just post your work because they love it and they know their viewers are going to love it, and that's what's really done huge for you, right?
Yes, exactly. So I maybe paid like 3 accounts to do this for me in the past, but then after this whole Reddit thing that happened last summer, for those of you who don't know, someone posted my photo or my painting on Reddit and it made it to the front page, and that I went from 1,700 followers to 18,000
in a week.
Yeah, so that was a huge jump. And so because of that, then it's all these big art accounts, they started discovering my work and then posting my photos without even contacting me first. It was just like, why am I getting all these followers? Oh, it's because this account featured me. So that is something. Don't be afraid to like pay accounts, but also you have to make sure that they're legitimate.
And check out the quality of art.
Yeah, the quality of art, definitely.
Because some of them, I've been approached by some, and first of all, I'm looking, it's like, I got more followers than you do.
Yeah, exactly.
And you look at their posts, and it's like, I don't want my work shown with this quality of art. So something that's appropriate from where you think it's going to do you good. But definitely the whole, and so just to be quite clear here too, I'm using an Instagram influencer right now. It's like, Brooke, I'm opening a gallery. We're gonna go shoot our mentorship thing down at the gallery because I'm gonna get a plug-in for the gallery.
Well, I'm happy to promote beautiful work like this.
So so that's another thing, which is collaborations, right?
Collaborations
are really big. If you can get where where you're offering, it has to be a win-win kind of offer for people. So where it's like, here, we're both benefiting from this because you're benefiting from my expertise and my advice, and, and you're kind of paying me back now by giving me access to all of these followers that you have to help spread the message. And I really want the people who are really, that hunger you have in your bones about being an artist. I really think that the series that we've done together with you from start to finish, I wish that was out there when I was starting. I mean, just learned so much from that. But the other thing that and I'm actually going to look at doing some of this year, another way of doing Instagram influencers is people, so we're going to be looking at this year, people who have like really big followings who are like a lifestyle brand or something, right? And it's like, pick a Giclée.
Yeah.
I'll send you a Giclée for free. You just post it. And again, all I want is them to work to get in front of their followers, because I know a certain percentage of them are then going to go, oh, I like that, and then they're going to come back and follow me and potentially buy something down the road. But it's all that potentially. Again, that whole thing about social media is give, and then ask, but never ever ask with expectation.
Yes.
Okay, I think we answered that one. We got another one?
So can you just repeat Gary V's last name? Yeah,
it's VAYNERCHUK. If you just Google Gary V, V-E-E, he has a show, it's called Ask Gary V. He's known as Gary V as much as he's known as Gary Vaynerchuk. If you just Google either of those, trust me, you'll get back 50 pages on Google. And it's YouTube. He's got tons of stuff on Instagram, tons of stuff on Facebook.
And he has a podcast too.
And he's got a podcast. He's into everything.
And then another one from Shara. What careers would you guys choose if you weren't artists?
I would still be a cop. So I was a police officer. I started out, I wanted to be an artist. I knew that from the time I was 12. You probably had that same thing too, right? But I actually took graphic design in college, took commercial art in high school. I was a starving designer in my early 20s, but I realized I really didn't give it 100%. Unfortunately, when we're at college is when we're least really equipped to give everything. I was much more involved in the social scene for the first time in my life, and kind of did a half-ass way through college. The police force was hiring. After 2 years as a starving artist, I joined the police force. I did that for 18 years, and that was my midlife crisis, was just realizing I'm an artist. And I'm in my late 30s and I'm not painting, and if that's what I was put here to do. And so really just got serious about my work again. And then it gradually, it's a funny thing, once you fully commit, it's like the world gets into lockstep, right? Yeah. So I would be doing that, because that was a job I really liked. I'm doing what I love now.
Yeah, I would say landscape architect, I guess. Just because, I mean, I loved the program. I went to University of Guelph. And it was awesome, and like for me, I chose the program specifically because I was nervous about going into like visual arts as like a post-secondary education, just with the stigma of
because everybody tells you.
Yeah, because everyone's like, oh, that's kind of risky, maybe you should take a safer route. So I found landscape architecture, and I found that it was a very good combination of being able to use my creativity in some way. It's very design-based program, and also incorporates the environment, which I'm also passionate about, and all this stuff. So everything kind of made sense at the time. And so if I wasn't, pursuing my career as an artist, then I would be a landscape architect.
And I think it served you well too, because you do a lot of stuff on the computer there,
Yeah.
like your website design, all of that kind of design type stuff.
Yeah, I learned
like
a lot.
you hit the ground running. Like you're a lot better than me, and I have a diploma in graphic design. Mind you, that was pre-computers. We used to cut everything up and paste it down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's funny.
It served me well.
Sometimes things that we do over here serve.
They
And for me,
translate.
the big thing with the police force is discipline.
Yeah.
Like, I get up and go to work every day because that's what you
that's
do.
something that I'm lacking a little bit of, is the discipline part. I'm like, snooze.
Do we have any more?
Yeah, Zach asks, what is challenging you the most in terms of artistic expression, and how are you trying to overcome it?
For me right now, I guess there's a couple. The biggest challenge for me is that This style that I work in, which is these pieces here, so I started as a high realism portrait painter, and then just realized that John Singer Sargent was right, that a portrait is a likeness with something wrong with the nose. And after several years of painting other people's kids, etc., the way they wanted, I just got sick of it. And so I started moving into landscape, and that was a real struggle. But it's been about 10 or 11 years now that my style has been kind of honed in, and it's solidified. And so then the struggle has been to not get complacent and get formulaic and doing the same old, same old, same old. And so I still make a point of taking time to really go out and explore and spend time in process mode trying new things. So this piece up here, I spent probably about 4 months last year, 3 months last year, really invested in that different kind of stylistic approach to the stained glass work, just trying something new. And just enough to realize, even though I liked the work and it got a lot of response, I didn't like the work as much as my current work, and the response from the public was not as good. So I come back to but the one thing I'm doing right now, again, I'm really experimenting with using palette knives for the first time. And so this year I've done 3 pieces with really thick texture. And so that's making it all new again. But I'm doing this same type of work as this, but doing it with a knife. And so I did a few pieces exclusively with a knife. And then now I'm into, okay, certain things I'll still do with a brush and certain things I'll do with a knife. And I'm finding that really challenging. So that's the thing for me, is just always get worried whenever you get too comfortable, I guess, is what I would say. And just try and find a way to continually challenge yourself.
For me, this is probably the most challenging aspect of my career thus far, is finding out what exactly I want to express through my work, because leading up to this point, I've always kind of worked in realism, and that's where I am comfortable and I'm the most, well-rounded in, I think. But now it's kind of a difficult situation, because I'm in between these two places where, one, I need to make sure that I'm making enough money to be able to support myself, kind of prove to my parents that, this is a viable career for me. So that means creating work that I know is going to sell, and judging by what work has sold in the past, that is my realistic paintings.
Yeah.
But that is not something necessarily that I want to stick with for the rest of my art career, and I would really like to experiment and kind of, go all over the map, explore different realms, and just kind of do that. But it's also, I'm scared that if I do something like that, then what if it doesn't sell, and then, that I'm stuck with no money, and so that's kind of I'm between a rock and a hard place in that sort. But I mean, so far the pieces that I have created that have been more of experimental pieces have been quite successful. So I mean, there's not too much holding me back except for my own anxiety, I think.
Well, so I'm just going to put my 2 cents in there too. You have to, so we've talked about this before, you have a really high skill set that you've developed. So your ability to draw, your ability to paint, your sense of design and composition is really high. So and again, I'm always stressing that, but you're a perfect example of when you take those things, you can go into almost any subject matter, any stylistic approach, and the work is going to be good. But that also makes it difficult, because that's good. I mean, I had that same problem. But when I was making the move from portraiture to landscape, I did the same thing here. I spent about half my time painting portraits, because I just knew that I need, if you forget that you are in the business of being an artist, you will pretty soon not be an artist. Yeah. You'll be working at the bank and being a hobby painter. So it is, if you are an artist who wants to do this full time, it is a business. And so the same thing applies as anything else. The beauty of it is, though, this is a marathon, not a sprint. You don't have to. I would be shocked if you find your voice in the next year or 2 years or 3 years, maybe 4 years, but maybe this year. But the good thing is, you can still make a very decent living as you're kind of continuing on this journey, right? Because it's when you're thinking about an art career, so many people get caught up in short-term gain, And that's why you get people that produce kind of moderately competent little paintings that not that good, but someone will buy them for $100, and yet they'll do that over and over and over because they know they can get that $100 instead of spending the time where they're not even necessarily doing paintings. Maybe it's like you spend 3 hours a day drawing because that's what you need to improve. It's what you should be concerned with is where you're going to be when you're my age, which is that's going to be a really nice thing. So you don't have to get too kind of bent out of shape about finding the answers right now. The key right now is the searching, right? And Brian Adio, who's one of my favorite painters and teachers, he said the important thing about painting is asking the right questions. And so you're asking the right questions, and then you go out and you discover, and then you go, oh, now I got a new question. And it's just kind of continually doing that.
Yeah. And so Zach also asks, how did you two meet?
So we met. So my wife, Diane, and I are members at a golf club here in Pickering, Whiteville Golf Club, and Brooke's mom and dad are members there.
Yeah.
And so I still remember that the first time I talked to your dad, I actually thought he was punking me. So I met her dad, Paul, and we were golfing together. And he said, like, you're into arts or something, aren't you? And I said, yeah.
Yes, I'm a full-time professional artist.
No, I just said, yeah. And he said, oh, my daughter's, and I hear this all the time, right? Oh, my daughter likes to paint. It's like, oh, here we go again. He said, my daughter likes to paint, and she did this painting for her grandfather of the bridge up on Gull River Rapids. But she's got some interest in the Cottage Road, and she'd like to do prints of it. Like, do you know anybody who does prints or anything else like that? And I was like, are you serious?
Do you know anyone? Yeah.
He says, yeah. I said, no, we do that. And at that time, Cameron had just started working for me full time. We were actually taking on work for other artists. And so I said, no, we can do that. And then I said, well, show me your work. And then he showed me just on his phone. It was like, oh, okay. So I got to tell this whole story. Because this also is what led me to saying I was willing to mentor you. So I said, yeah. So he said, what's the process? I said, bring the painting in, we'll photograph it, we'll do a print of it, and you guys can come look. And if you're not happy with the quality, there's no charge. But if you're happy with it, then we can do the prints for you. So we talked about how many. I think you decided you were going to do 25. And so I got Cameron to do the proofs, and you came over to okay the proofs, and you looked at it and said, oh yeah, that's great. When can I have the 25 prints? And I said, well, you don't need to order all 25 right now. We can print them on demand as you sell them. And you said, oh, I've already sold all 25. And I went, I like this girl. That was the first thing that I thought, oh, there's something there. And then you did a couple prints. We did a couple prints for you for the yoga studio over the course of that last year of school. And then you were still doing more work, but did we do any other prints for you, or what else? We did something else. I can't remember what it was. But then anyways, and so that was kind of the lead up to when your dad came to me and said, Brooke talked to us last night. She doesn't want to be an architect. She wants to be an artist. And literally, if we had not had that interaction before, I probably would have given him very different advice. I probably would have said, yeah, you're probably, like, tell her to be an architect and paint as a hobby. Yeah. But I just knew from that, well, also I knew that you had the skill set, but like finding someone at your age who also had that business thing, and you had a couple other things going on over the course of that last year.
Yeah, I was doing commissions still while I was in university too, just like painting people's dogs and stuff like that.
So that's how we met. We're getting together for dinner on Saturday.
Yes, we are.
My wife
all of us.
And Brooke's
and
parents.
Yeah.
All right, so Justin asks, what % of your revenue comes from people seeing your work on social media?
Okay, for you,
like,
right? 100%? 100%?
Yeah, I think 100%.
And so you made over 30,000 last year, your first full year, right?
I would say that also, I mean, I did a bunch of shows too, like art shows last year. I did 4 different ones, and I did generate a lot of sales from that, but I think that it was also me telling people to come to the show.
They came to the show because they follow you.
Because of social media, so I would say that like basically like 85 to 100% are probably from social media.
Yeah, I can tell you, Justin, so that like I would have said like 3 or 4 years ago, probably about 70% of my revenue was from the sale at galleries. So as the gallery selling it and then me getting either 50 or 60% of it. Now, so far this year, I think it's probably 90% is direct to client sale. And that's, I equate pretty much all direct to client sales is through social media, because even if they buy from your website, like how do people get to your website, right? You could post a website online, no one is ever going to see it. Social media is where people's attention is, and that's where they see your work and then go to your website. But I can tell you I'm down to 3 galleries now, but I sold, the last year that I was still with a bunch of galleries, I was still in 7 galleries, and I sold more direct to client than all the galleries did together. And that just would not have happened without social media. So it is the biggest part of my business right now, and it's just early. It's really only been, I don't know, like 5 years ago, 5 to 10 years ago, there's a lot of people out there probably watching this now that would never, that were still, I'm not going to put my credit card into the computer. They're afraid you're going to get your information stolen, and it's going to be, you're going to get into fraudulent purchases on your account. But even 5 years ago, people were a little, I think, leery still about buying art on the internet. Not now.
Nope.
Not now. I've had as much as a $16,000 painting. If the person tried to buy the painting, but it was already sold, so then he commissioned one site and just shipped it to him. I had another $5,000 one go down to Boston in the fall last year. Basically every week for the last month, I'm getting $1,000 purchase on my Shopify account. So for like a big 3 foot by 4 foot print like this, we've sold one every week for the last 6 or 7 weeks online. And I know the only way these people are becoming aware of my work is from social media, because I don't know them. And so it's Boston, it's out in Vancouver, it's kind of all over. So social media is the game changer. It is, and it gives the artist freedom, because we don't have there's no one between you and the client. It used to be it was a gallery owner that got to decide who could see your work, when you could show your work, and they took a big piece of the pie. Now
it's all you.
Yep. I mean, so don't get me wrong, selling in galleries is still a viable thing. And particularly for people who are kind of mid to late career, like if you're good, and I was good, I was making a lot of money just selling through galleries. But when Cameron decided he wanted to come work for me, and it's like, okay, now we have to turn this into a business that's gonna continue after I'm not pumping out paintings, then it's like, okay, we need to now grow the business, and social media was the way that I sought to do it. But I never envisioned that I'd be dropping most of my galleries and selling stuff direct to client. But for someone who's a young person now, it is the way to go, because I really believe most galleries don't get it. I talked to all the galleries that I'm in, and I've been beating the drum for 2 years. Like, you guys got to get your act together, or you're going to go the way of Blockbuster Video. It's like people want to buy direct. You're going to be Blockbuster, and we're Netflix, and most galleries aren't doing it. So, if you're good with your gallery sales and you don't really want all this, that's fine. But the vulnerability is that galleries may disappear. Now, there's still going to be some very high-end galleries. But you look at all those sales that I'm getting now direct to client, that's taken money out of the pockets of what was going to galleries. And as more and more artists realize this and do this, then yes, so in answer to your question, social media is the most important thing. I think after the art, the most important thing is the art. And I just want to do a quick thing about what is sellable art. The great news is sellable art is great work with a unique voice. And so that's also what we're all trying to get to. So if you think of it just like music, it's someone who has a great sound that's unique, and it's not necessarily technically the best. I'm an old guy, so I still watch American Idol. But we just finished watching, they've got down to the top 24. There's some brilliant singers who didn't go through because they just sound like a bazillion other technically brilliant singers. And then there's other people who aren't technically as good, but they've just got this amazing sound that's so unique that it's like, yeah, that's the guy. And so it's the same with art. Great work with a unique voice. If you can do that, then it becomes a marketing problem, social media, all that kind of stuff. How are we doing?
That's all.
That's it? Okay.
Great.
Well, that was fun. How'd we go? Oh, you're over an hour.
Wow.
So, thank you for joining us. I hope we've provided some education, some entertainment, and some inspiration. If you haven't seen the video series of this start to finish, then I'd encourage you to do that. So that's on my YouTube channel. I think I don't think I put a link in the actual text there, but if you go to my website, www.timpacker.com, you can link to all of my social media, and the YouTube channel is youtube.com/c/Tim Packer Fine Arts. So how about you tell them where they can find more of you?
You can find all of my information on my website, www.brookecormier.com. There's links to my Instagram and Facebook. Instagram is bcormier_art, and Facebook is facebook.com/bcormierart. And you can also access the Tim Packer Mentorship program from my website too. It's under the About section and in the Contact section.
Okay, so thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.